We are live. Welcome aboard THP Universe. This is JDax, joined today to talk about all things that are Grandaddy related. We're gonna get you stuck in. We're gonna talk about the teams. We're gonna talk about the entire process that goes into the Grandaddy, and at the end of this, we're gonna give you some predictions. I'm gonna lay out some odds. It's take about 60 minutes of your time to get stuck in and get you ready for all of the action that starts tomorrow. I'm going to give you a little bit of introductions. First, I'm going to introduce the 2015 Grandaddy captain, staff member, reviewer extraordinaire. J-Man is here. J-Man, say hello to the
Well,
THP
hello,
universe.
everybody.
And also joining us is the 2018 THP champion, loser of the rivalry.
Uh,
Illiterate is here.
what's up, THP?
And of course, you know me. This is JDax. Our combined record of this booth, Granddaddy record, is 1-7, and I'm not the one that had a win in the grand the
No
grand.
wins, no losses, no ties.
Right, no wins, no losses, no ties. I'd like to make an announcement before we get started. This is sort of the last of an era here. This is the last time that we're going to do this type of show. And as you heard JB announce, in 2024, these previews are going to have a little bit of a different look, a little bit of a different reach, and we're hoping to up the quality and the level. So this is sort of like our last Outlaw Mud show before we hit the big time. Now that I've got the introductions out of the way, let's just start with the most important question, and I'll kick it around. Two of us here have been to a Grandaddy. Okay, it's very important for obvious reasons to the THP universe, but we may all have different reasons why it's so important. J-Man, I'll start with you. Why is the Grandaddy so important to the THP universe?
I think it is everything that dreams are made of for an internet golfer. And that's what I will always come back to with it. What Callaway has done over the years and just kind of truly opening up and given, average hackers a chance at doing something you're never going to get to do. And that's why anytime somebody makes it, my first thing I tell them is like, it's going to change your golfing life. One way or the other, it's going to change your golfing life. And nothing's ever going to be the same after that in the best possible way. The magnitude, the spectacle, the forum at your back, like there's nothing like it. And I've been in a lot of big events, but the Grandaddy stands on its own.
It definitely is special. Illiterate, you have a different perspective because you're still a Granddaddy hopeful,
And
right?
really hopeful. That's right.
As
Well,
many of the people that are watching right now, or
many
as
of the
many of the
THP
people,
universe.
right? Many of the THP universe are. This is the 10th one, but there's plenty of the THP universe that hasn't experienced what J-Man and I have experienced. Why is it important to you?
Well, it's from the outside looking in, it's the greatest amateur event that's ever been created. Um, Callaway putting this on, paying for your airfare, the travel, your stay. I mean, it's just incredible. The camaraderie that you get with the team, it being a team competitive event, you get fitted. I mean, there's nothing else that does this, and that's why it's the greatest amateur event. And like James said, Forum is backing you. I mean, it's incredible, especially to watch and follow along. So I can only imagine what it's been like for you two actually been able to participate in it. So
Yeah, I think that it's hard to describe to someone that hasn't done it. Okay, and I get this question all the time. What makes it so special? Why is it so important? Well, first off, for all of the reasons that y'all have stated, um, for a member of the Lunatic Fringe, you could give them like a wish, right? And then you can ask them, what is the greatest golf event you could come up with? And this thing checks every box,
Mm-hmm.
right? You get to meet awesome people with Team Callaway that make some of the finest gear in the world. They're going to take you around. They're going to show you not only the redacted stuff that you're going to get to put into play, but stuff that they're working on 2 launches from now in some cases. right? A
All the way behind the
preview.
curtain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go like there's some cool stuff with like 3D printing. They'll show you that like where they sort of test concepts. Maybe they print up ahead, they test it out. There's a ball cannon that I remember
Yes.
seeing as we toured the facility. And they really just sort of open the door, and like they're super cool about asking almost any questions. That these people that work at Callaway Golf are some of the best people that I've ever met in any of my THP experiences, but bar none. And I got taken behind the woodshed by the dart court of the hideaway. And you know what? Come March, I'm gonna ride those coattails all the way to a goat cup ring. I cannot wait for that. The other thing is that like this is the 10th one, and not everyone gets to experience this on the form, and you never know if this is the last one. So it raises like this sort of anxiety level for all of the hopefuls that have not had a chance to have their moment in the sun and experience this. Um, is this going to be it? Because you never know. Like you
Yep.
never know. Like we could be talking about the last Granddaddy right there, and I think that it adds to the whole importance to the THP universe.
I mean, yeah, it does, because as a spectator, it makes you root even more for the team, right?
Hmm.
Because I remember as a captain, like your main goal is how do you make sure it lives on? Because I want somebody else to get to do this. And from the forum side of it, we get to kind of sit back and root them on, and let's see if this thing lives on. But you're right, it's the unknown, man. It's the granddaddy, right?
Right, it's the granddaddy of them all. Only a global pandemic stopped this from happening over the last decade, and they still even tried to give us a watered down version of it in the grandmama, and we just couldn't land the plane. Remember that, because of COVID restrictions, etc. You're also going to meet along the way, if you follow this journey, you're going to meet guys like Al, who invite you into their house, who is total life goals. That man is a national treasure
Like,
who needs to be protected at all costs. I got to play 36 holes with Al. Um, yeah, at one point, after Finley didn't concede me a fourth footer, and the match was over, Al just put his arm around me and said, "Hey man, look around." And so I took a second and I looked around. He goes, "This beats being at work."
That's
And
right.
I'm like, "Yeah." And then he got me a
Perspective.
drink from a comfort station, and before you know it, we were laughing and joking as I finished my granddaddy career on the die course, and it's sort of a once in a lifetime thing, right? I mean, yes, T. Ron got to go twice. Dan makes a return appearance here. Josh in his third, but for the vast majority of the people that that have gotten to go, it's a once in a lifetime thing, and it's a surreal experience, and I hope that as many people have the opportunity to experience it as possible. We're going to get stuck in, and we're going to talk a whole lot about this competition, but this particular event transcends the competition. Like it has a competition component, and I think that it's important, and it is the most it's the one thing that most of the THP universe can relate to, right? But you're not going to be able to relate to someone fitting you for a putter, whether or not it could be Luke or someone else, and then them go grabbing a prototype like they did my year, where I had like this extreme forward press, and they brought out a Toulon with an H8 neck, which is a long slant neck, to make it look like it was already pressed for me. Started making putts. That doesn't happen. You're not walking into a Dick's and having that happen. Okay. So let's get stuck in. We're going to talk a lot about the competition, but this is so much more than the competition. I'm going to move on. Granddaddy history. Whew. It hasn't gone well for us. Let's just call it what it
Not on the
is.
whole, no.
No. THP's record in this is 1-8. Okay. We've had some chances, and if you go back and look, 2014, that was all square at the end of day one. We lost on singles day. Ended up being 14-10, was the final there. 2015, that is a team that you captained, didn't go as well. Okay, 21.5 to 8.5. 2016, our one moment in the sun. Okay. Down 9.5 to 8.5 at the end of day one, and somehow found a way to get it done on singles day. 1-7-5 on singles day, the one blemish on the Team Grandaddy record, 2016. And by the way, there's a member of that team that returns on this team.
Yes.
2017, that was, that's regrettable. It's the year I played. 24.5 to 5.5. It was,
bloodbath.
It was a total boat race of epic proportions. 2018, very similar. They won by 10 points. 2019, very similar situation as some of these boat races have occurred. 2021 is a weird one. This was Dimples. This was Much Thor. This was that team. They had it at all square at the end of day one. I know you can remember this. The form was electric that night of singles. We thought that we had a chance, and then Team Callaway slams the door shut on us in singles and wins that day 8-4, 14 to 10. Last year, also the same 14 to sort of 10 result for Team Callaway. We got boat raced on day one, 8.5 to 3.5. We actually won singles day for the second time ever in Grandaddy history last year. James, I'll start with you, or J-Man. Sorry, foreign names only, pal.
Four names.
J-Man, I'll start with you. Why do you think it's been so difficult for us? This 1-8 record. Why?
The big thing for me, and it's one of the hard things to explain, as internet golfers, we are really not good at going out and pushing ourselves. And if we do go push ourselves on courses, we're really, really, really not good at accepting that maybe that bad score is okay to post. You know, we get a little embarrassed. We get a little gun shy of it all. We may not enter all of our scores because I'm better than a 94. Man, own that thing. Because the one thing I can tell you is with the Callaway crew, the courses that they play regularly, they're tested. They're all battle tested. And I think you can't undersell just how much they want to win. Like, they love having a good time and showing us a good time, and they do it better than anybody. The bus ride is legendary, right?
Yes.
But they can flip a switch, and it's hard as an average golfer to get to go experience something like this, to do the ECPC, to go through the fitting, to see the redacted stuff, to know you're going to get to play it, to get to experience this. You're getting asked any question you could ever want. I mean, I remember watching guys' faces as they sat in a room with Chip and got to ask anything. He said, let her rip. And now the next day you expect him to go play a competition. It's hard. It's tough. It's a test of everything. And I just think that's kind of the nature of the beast.
Illiterate, you've watched it from afar. You remember the times where 2021, you never forget the emergency singles preview, because I really thought that we were going to win that one. I really did. I love that team so much.
I think we all did. Yeah.
Yeah. I think every one of us is like, oh, this is it. This is our year. Illiterate, why do you think it's been so difficult for us to find our footing here?
Well, J-Man touched on some of that just a minute ago. But I mean, it's hard, coming in, getting fit for different putter, different driver, irons. Depending on the year, you get to play, play the irons that you're fit into and stuff like that. I mean, you're playing new equipment out there. It's a different kind of golf over there at the Hideaway too. A lot of these guys, you might be coming in from up north where it's cold, wet, and rainy, and you come over somewhere where it's maybe mild. I know some years it's a little cool over there, but you've got fast and firm conditions. It's a much different test than what you're accustomed to, depending on what part of the country that you live in. Also too, and I'll touch on this as we talk a little bit about Team THP later, but I did some digging into handicaps and just trying to kind of see a little bit about hey, what kind of courses, are these guys playing? Are they playing tough courses? Are we playing, some softer tracks? So I'll touch a little bit on that too. But to J-Man's point, these guys are tested from Callaway. We're not necessarily tested. Maybe we're shying. Hey, I shot 92, but I should have gave myself those 2 3-footers. So now I'm going to post a 92, or 90 or something, cut a couple strokes off. Just post your scores. I mean, that's how you get an accurate handicap. And then you can be like, the sandbagger of the Grandaddy. I won't name any names. So, but yeah, I'll kick it back to you, Dak.
Yeah, thank you. Let's not get into that controversy. This is a non-controversial show. I think that there's a couple things. One, I mean, the one year that we did win, maybe one of the greatest launches of all time. It's my favorite iron set that Callaway may have ever made with those Apex CF16s. That was also the Epic Driver year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I mean, and we've seen a lot of different, look, we've seen the Rogue and we've seen Apexes and now Paradigm. They always make phenomenal gear, but guess what? You don't bring any gear to this thing. Okay. you go to the performance center, that they make them overnight, they drive them across the desert, and then you arrive at the hideaway, and then at your little stand, there's your bag, right? And then if you overindulge in breakfast sliders or whatever, may have not. Yeah, well, I mean, you may have not have gotten used to the clubs, and before you know it, you're putting a tee in the ground and it starts to count. Let's talk about what they're going to do then.
I could take you a step further than that. After we got our clubs and I had all the breakfast sliders, we went to the range, and it took me a solid 15 swings to get myself to make contact with the grass.
Yeah.
Because everything is so perfect and so immaculate. So, like, I get to do all kinds of cool stuff with the job that I do for THP. But, like, even me out there, I was shell-shocked by it all. So it's a very real, like, euphoria. And it's not a knock on it. It's the coolest thing ever. But you kind of hit a valid point there. You take all these and you go out, and here it is. You better pay attention. Yeah. You better figure your stuff out real quick, and let's go to work.
Yeah, one more thing, too. JDax, he said, he disagrees that it's not that hard to adjust the clubs fitted for you. I agree to a certain point, but you might be trying to get used to new distances. Maybe these new clubs that are fit to you, maybe they go a little longer, so you're trying to adjust. There's a lot of things that you kind of get used to as you play more. You get comfortable with the distances and everything like that. So I do think there's some learning that goes on when you get those new clubs out there, and that's what I mean by that.
I just want to say that the breakfast parfait is underrated. It's totally underrated as a breakfast.
The sliders, the sliders overshadow it. You're right.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't have to load up on the sliders. Maybe just have some slider breakfast parfait. Honestly, I think that it comes down to putting. Like you're trying to get used to the new clubs. You don't see a whole lot of members of Team THP on that putting green. And oh, by the way, you're 10, 15 minutes away from having to make a putt to have a hole. And then in some cases, maybe maybe you're not ready. Like you've overstuffed yourself. Maybe you've overindulged on the bus ride. And then before you know it, you can't make 5 net 4 when you absolutely have to. Okay. And so this is what happens. And all of a sudden you look down. It almost happens every year. If you look at the scorecards, you look down. We're down 2 in this match. We're down 2. And you're trying to drag yourself. Hopefully, much has been there before. Maynard will have them sort of ready to prepare for the surreal nature of driving into the gates and then totally put them on a pitch count related to the sliders. Have a Bloody Mary, have a breakfast parfait, and let's ride.
Blueberry vodka lemonade, baby. It's your friend.
Yeah.
So they go to the EY Callaway Performance Center. And this is what we're probably going to see, what they're traveling in today. We'll probably see this. What is this, tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow, Tuesday. But you don't have all day, right? Like there's, we have Shaftgate 2.0. Josh is sending a driver shaft up there. He's probably not going to get fit. He's already fit himself. But for the most of the guys, they go either 4 or 5 at a time. And in rotations, some people are getting fitted for putters, some people are down getting fitted for clubs, and then you sort of rotate through. It's very quick because there's 14 of you, 13. Josh doesn't go through the process. You don't have all day, but this is the best. I thought this is my favorite part of the Grand. I mean, there's so many favorite parts, but if I had to rank them, this is the day for the golf nerd. Lunatic fringe guy, this is your day.
Talk
right?
about
Like,
the wedge situation that happened at
oh,
your.
so so I was in the group that got fitted for putters first. Then Garrett fit me, who was Phil Mickelson's fitter at the time for my clubs, and so I go to the wedge area because they had really cool wedge area. And this was the first year of the X grind. Like it looks so sexy on the thing, and like you look at it, and you're like, dude, I could open this up all the way. So I start hitting some wedge shots, and I hear a voice behind me saying, "Put that down. That's not for you."
The voice.
The So I didn't know who it was. I was like, "Oh, was I not supposed to grab this off the thing?" I didn't know. So I turn around, and it's Roger Cleveland.
RFC, baby.
And Roger Cleveland's like, "No." And I'm like, "Sir," and he walks up to me and he starts talking to me and he goes, "No, like this is not it's not the right grind." Long story short, we got into a discussion. We hit some chips, hit some half wedge shots. Before you know it, there was an S grind and a C grind in my bag, and we just went about my business. Okay.
Just like
So
that, you got a fitting from our Roger F. in Cleveland
yeah,
himself.
Yep.
yeah, just by
That is the Granddaddy. That's
Yeah.
the Ely Callaway Performance Center.
yeah,
Like
that's it.
that's what this is. Yeah.
Roger Cleveland. I'm like, okay, well, it does. The C grind didn't look as sexy. C grind 58 did not look as sexy as that X grind, but I trusted Roger Cleveland.
Did he
Who
give
am
you
I to say?
did he give you the bounce talk?
Yes, yes, he gave me the whole
Yes.
thing, and I was digging.
Yes.
Like I was digging ditches with this X grind, like I was laying squirrel graves. So it was obvious. It should have been obvious to me, but I was trying to make it work, and then a voice came, and I haven't even tried like their version of that grind ever since. So they go through this whole thing, right?
Mhm.
They get fitted. They take a picture of your fitting sheet because it's one of the coolest things, and then it's off, right? Sheets go in. They start getting clubs built. There's a mad dash to the desert, and then this is where it starts really getting going. Hey, don't miss the bus. Let's get on the bus. Let's ride into the desert. There's going to be drinks flowing, stories happen. Make sure if you're on the team to try to meet everyone because you're not going to get to play with everyone. So this is like your spot on the bus ride to talk to people that you may not play with along the way. I sat next to Finley for a little bit of this, and we became
Hey,
quasi
and
friends.
take all the pictures you can.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Everything that they'll let you take a picture of. Of course,
The
don't take a picture
people,
of
the
anything
things.
redacted.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
that NDA will cover you there.
Yeah.
You get in trouble.
Yeah. So they're going to have to make some putts. This is
Yep.
what I have it written down on my storyboard here. They're going to have to make some putts. You've seen the putters. Jay.
I will make a bold prediction.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
This will be the best putting year of any THP Granddaddy team because of the technology they're about to get.
Nice.
Yes.
Dan and I got to go down to the Odyssey event. We got to go do all that. I've been working with one. I've got one here. I've done the breakdown on it. Like it's not smoke and mirrors. It's not smoke and mirrors. Like I'm excited to see what each of them get fit into. Maynard and I have been talking about it a little bit, and I think once they all get out there, and Dax, these greens, they're big, they're undulating. You get yourself on the wrong side, it's scary. I think
There's
from
some scary
distance,
greens out there.
I think from distance with these in their hands, it's going to be a heck of a weapon for Team THP.
It's not so much making putts.
Mm-mm.
It's so much avoiding the 3-jack that can cost you the hole.
Exactly.
Okay. And you saw the putters. We all watched the putters. Like I sort of even fell in love with which is the one that looks like the Atlanta, 3T something, 3T,
yeah.
I think. I can't wait to see how many people get fit into that bad boy. Listen to your fitter. Okay. Don't be the guy that starts offering like pushback. Okay. This is not the time for you to bring your own sort of like guerrilla internet golfer thing to the thing. These are the people that do this on a reg. So
don't
just
bring your own
fitter.
putter group to the fitting, y'all.
No. Don't.
Putter's free. What do you have to lose? Just try.
Right.
Try what they're telling you to try.
The tech
so we
is
talked
real.
a little bit. I'm trying to keep us on time.
I know.
So we have to talk about the hideaway, right? 2 courses there, the Clive and the Die. there's so many. Look, it's been a while. I look at the yardage book all the time. This is not I have a signed one from Mr. Finley himself, but this one's
What a
not.
guy.
I would there's a lot of difficult holes out here. I found the die the harder of the two courses. But maybe it was because I was just getting like totally boat raced. Because that's where we played singles at. Um, when you can go through keyholes all you want, but I'm partial to the ninth hole at the die. I was able to make a birdie putt. I cut Finley's lead to 6 and felt like there may have been some momentum shifting um, in the match. James, you've played both courses also.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts about Hideaway?
See, I preferred the die.
Okay.
And I think that's because I just had a little bit more success on it. We did pretty positive. We played the Clive for singles, and
Okay.
I'm pretty positive on the first hole I shelled 3 out of bounds because of nerves. So I don't have very fond memories as everything goes that way. I don't know. I mean, usually on a golf course for me, there are 4 or 5 holes that just stick out more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hideaway, the Clive, and the Die are both unique in that it's just a course, and it's a course of perfection. So I don't have like these memories of this hole sticks out more than others, because every time you turn around, there's a fountain, there's waterworks, there's all of the tropical plants you could ever imagine, and the most pristine, perfect green grass everywhere you look. And I think that's what stands out to me more than anything. They're both tests. You get away with a little more than what you think visually off the tee, but your shots into the greens are everything, right?
Yes, the par threes on both courses. I do remember they're usually like crucial in matches, right? Like because like you've got to stick it on the 7th on the Clive. It's sort of a difficult par 3 with a lot of water guarding it, and there's a bunker complex to the left. You go to the 11th, and it looks almost impossible. There's nowhere to really bail out on the
No.
11th at the Clive either. And these are the types of holes. The par 5s do offer a lot of risk reward elements. If you can get the drive out there, you're just going to have the time of your life seeing I found the Clive with the better vistas, I guess, and it's prettier. I don't know if it's as hard of a test of golf maybe as the die.
I think that's fair, though. I think that's fair.
Well,
Yeah.
If we're looking at course rating and slope rating, the die is considerably more difficult than so. So there you go.
Harder
I'm
to
a
keep it in the
psycho, so I
fairway.
enjoyed it more.
Yeah,
I think it's harder to keep it in the fairway. If they do catch the die in singles, it does have an interesting sort of like from 13 in. Okay, last year Finley and Captain Hibbler. Believe it or not, Captain Hibbler stood on 13 tee box 2 up. Okay, he stood there with a chance for immortality, and then here's where the teeth of the course could, if you have this chance, Maynard. If you're on the die course, man, there is no bargain 13 in. 13's a par 5, and it's a longish par 5, and if you go for it in 2 and then leave it out to the right, it could get in the water, and before you know it, you're picking up and now here comes Finley's charge. 15's not an easy hole. You get to 17, which is a par 3, and it ends with a par 5, a great little risk reward second shot where like if you can put your drive all the way to the crosswalk on the 18th hole at the die, you do have a chance to go for it there, but there's water that guards the right hand side. So how frisky do you want to be if the Granddaddy's on the line? I hope they get the die in singles because of that finishing hole stretch.
I think the beauty of I got one more thing on the die. I think the beauty of the die on singles would be if my only advice to Team THP in singles is like it's match play, let it go, just go, right? Just go. And if 13 gets you, or whichever hole gets you, just go. That's kind of the beauty of it. I think a harder course like that plays into THP's hands as much as it does Callaway's, because everybody's going to be exposed. You just got to look at it that way. I don't know. That's just my take, though.
I like that take. I mean, I really do. we'll talk about the format because I do think the format helps us a little bit here. So we go day one. They're going to get Shamble. This is best score, not combined, which I'm glad they didn't draw the combined score. And then they get best ball, and then two different 9-hole matches, which, as you know, 9-hole matches tend to be these sort of sprints. Like anything can happen. Pops are sort of magnified in a 9-hole setting. And then they fade or don't have to play. I'm using gambling terms for people that probably don't gamble. They don't have to. They don't have any sort of version of alternate shot. There's not alternate shot. There's not Pinehurst. There's none of that. Historically speaking, when we have gotten boat raced, some form of alternate shot has been in the format on day one.
Absolutely.
They avoid this here, and so James, talk to me. I think that the format is advantageous for us to sort of stay in it on day one. What are your thoughts about the format?
Well, I mean, that was the first thing that I was curious of is, were we going to see true alt shot? Were we going to see Pinehurst? Because to me, that's where you're either riding a high and everything goes well. And that's also historically where Callaway has ham and egged it so well. I mean, those guys in the moment aren't there's no overwhelming weakness, if that makes sense. Like they can all hit pretty good tee shots. They can all get the ball in play. They can all do the things. Whereas as THPers, like that amps that pressure up when you have to depend on your partner a little bit more. Your partner has to depend on you. So for me, I love Shamble. I love Shamble so much. I think that's a great way to kick things off. And I think best ball is going to be pretty fun to watch and see how that unfolds too. But you're right. Format wise, I don't know that we could ask for much more for Team THP.
Yeah, I don't look. I mean, illiterate, you're probably going to agree with this. I think we got a little bit of a favor here, although not. Again, we went through the surreal nature and how hard it is to start hot because of sliders and lack of parfaits being in the mix, and all of these other things.
You said the oatmeal too. Don't forget about the oatmeal.
Okay, the oatmeal. Oh, to answer another question, yes, illiterate is wearing 2017 scripting. That was the hat that we were scripted in. That particular Grandaddy hat, to answer one of the questions in there. That was scripting that I gave to him when I got home. Thoughts on the format, illiterate? Do you believe that it's an advantage for us?
I mean, I think with not having alt shot or Pinehurst, I definitely think it helps us. Especially we have the higher handicaps of the group. I think that when you have higher handicaps, you tend to have more blow up potential. There's pops out there, but if you're hitting that out of bounds, every tee shot, it's not going to be good. You also have to remember, with Team Callaway, they a lot of these people have played this course, multiple times. But format wise, I mean, I think Shamble is a great way to kind of work into things. If you get one in play. And then you can kind of just work in from there, and then you play the next 9 on best ball. So if you have a bad hole, maybe your partner, it's really about ham and egging at that point. Even in Shamble, if you can ham and egg, somebody get it in the fairway, and then just ham and egg it in from there. So I mean, I think that this format's very friendly for us, and if we can keep it close, I think I know we're going to talk about the path later, but if we can keep this thing close after day one, look out.
I hope that we get the cloth. I like this format. It's not tricky. There's nothing really tricky about it. Hopefully we get the clav on day one. Day two, you come back. There are 28 total points available in this particular version of the Grandaddy. 14.5 win the Grandaddy, and 14 are available on day one. And again, here's 14 on day two. In singles, they have historic... Like they've won, Team Callaway has won 67% of the singles matches. No matter what configuration they show up in, no matter what, they tend to win 7 out of every 10 match, historically speaking. It will be interesting to see where we at the end of day one. Is this booth correct? Was this advantageous for us? Or we're able to keep it close? And what type of matches? And we'll get to that in a second when we get to pairing options. Singles is very sort of a straightforward situation. Although with the handicap spread, I'll just say this, there's a variety of different matches that Captain Maynard could get out there where we are getting a ton of pops, depending upon how the draw goes. So stay tuned for that. Let's talk about the nerves, but we're going to break down the teams in a second because that's what everyone's waiting on. But you have to talk about a little bit of the nerves. I I was so nervous on singles day, I almost puked. And there was a combination of this nest situation, not being the first one out. There was I woke up with blood, and then you're here, Finley. I think in my drunken state, I took a picture with the clown and said and basically captioned me and my opponent for tomorrow or something like that.
That's not a good bear to poke.
I had already poked it, man. He shot a 93 at Callaway Hype. I thought that, I could definitely. I shot an 84 that same day. I'm like, look, let's ride. James, let's talk to me about Granddaddy nerves because it's a real thing.
The interesting thing about the nerves, and I've been reflecting on this for the last day or so, kind of thinking how I'd answer it. I think the nerves, or at least for me, the nerves really didn't hit me until singles.
Mm-hmm.
Like day one, honestly, other than like I told you all, I was incapable of taking a pelt on the range because I didn't want to mess up their pristine grass that would be replaced the minute after we left anyway. I wasn't nervous in that because you got a partner, you've got other things. And with me being the captain, maybe that was part of it because I was so focused on everybody else. But I distinctly remember on singles, whenever we got to the tee box with Harry, as I proceed to shell shot after shot out of bounds, it was the one and only Johnny Rod himself that came over and gave me a hug and said, "Bro, just calm down." So,
what do you know?
It's real, but I think the partner aspect early helps because you're in, and plus you're still in awe of the place. The event and the competition doesn't really get nervy. Then singles comes around, you're either throwing a Hail Mary or you got a puncher's chance, right? So now the nerves amp up a little bit.
And hopefully it's a little bit better than a puncher's chance.
I
We're going
hope
to
so.
talk about, so we're going to move on and talk about these teams, and we're going to start with the defending champions first. Okay. Team Callaway, they arrive 8-1 lifetime Grandaddy record. I've gone through some of their winning percentages. Their historical singles winning percentage is 67%, a little bit less when you count the team matches. This is an absolute sort of nightmare. The combined handicap is 7. This is right around the historical average. Okay, like we've seen, last year we saw 5.6. Okay, we've seen some like ridiculous combined handicaps out of them. They have some of the usual suspects here. I'm wearing an old school Four Horsemen shirt because in my original talking notes, I was going to talk about the Four Horsemen of this team with Luke, D, Nevs, Finley, and J-Rod. J-Rod's not here. So again, in typical Four Horsemen fashion, there's really only 3 of them because they usually have kicked someone out or something like that. But anyone that
I
ever
appreciate
watched
that reference so much.
Yeah. So they start with Captain Finley. 6'4". He's this is what he came in and played last year. He's an adjusted 7 usually at the Hideaway, according to my notes here. And then they just have some heavy hitters. Like, I mean, Johnny Wonder's a 1. Kim, Call Me Daddy, which I have signed memorabilia because I picked against her one time. 1.1. Austin Tudor, who I'll see at the Goat Cup, 1.6. Luke is like their 4th highest handicap and is a 1.8 with a career winning percentage of 66% and change. Luke wins 2 out of 3 matches all the time, and he is not the lowest handicap on the team. He's the 4th. They have 5 rookies though. This is the most that they usually arrive with, and they're marked at the bottom of the screen related to their first appearance. Keith White, Zach Irons, we'll get to Gordon at 9-2, Billy and Nick around this sort of rookie situation out. Zach Oakley, 5.9, Zach Irons, 5, Keith White, 2.9. Like, D-Nevs comes into the 7-7. D-Nevs' career winning percentage is 62%. In fact, his career record of 18-5-6 is the second best on this team. After J-Rod gets scratched, J-Rod and his 82% winning percentage. So we catch a break here, okay, because he's not there. In his 5 appearances, he didn't appear in 2016 when we pulled off the upset. He's not here this year, so maybe that is an omen of things to come.
And Dan's
Yeah, Dan's here. J-Rod wasn't there. Gordon Gray, first appearance, 9.2. J-Rod gets replaced by Paul Winterhalter, 9. So they replace a 10 with a 9. And oh, by the way, Paul's career Grandaddy record is like 3.5. Okay, because he made one appearance. So Finley gets a late scratch here. He goes in, throws a stone to someone's office, walks out with a 9 handicap that played a couple years ago and didn't lose. That's how deep this bench is. And Lex returned. She played not last year in 2022, but she played in 2021. No one on this team. The two worst winning percentages are Johnny Wonder and Lex, and they're at 500. This is a nightmare. This is like the 27 Yankees. This is 2019 LSU with like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And oh, by the way, we have a guy named Justin Jefferson too. This is the version of this team, Callaway. When you see all of this, even with the 5 rookies, and rookies aren't unknown at this type of thing, James, what are you thinking here?
I think it's what it always is. Like I'm of the view that you just accept that that's what Callaway's going to bring. That as soon as something opens up, there's a race there. Like those people, they want to play in this as much as the THPers want to get into it. So I think you expect the best, and you're going to get the best from them always. I guess to me, it's not the shell shock thing about it all. It's just the reality to it,
Yeah. I mean, do you think that Paul had to win some sort of like elimination chamber?
I hope they like have an octagon that they put together in the marketing segment, and then they just go at it, and that's how they decide who gets in.
D-Nev, 62% winning percentage. Finley clocks in at 61. Kim, her record's 4-2 lifetime. Austin's 5-1 lifetime. Like, even some of these guys that don't have the multiple Grandaddy appearances as some of the others, they tend to win. Johnny Wonder, 2-2. By the way, he seems to be the most gettable, but he's also the lowest handicap on their team, right? Like on paper, he's kind of the most gettable. So we'll have to see how it goes. Illiterate, your thoughts on this juggernaut of Team Callaway?
I mean, they got a great group, obviously led by Darth Finley. And he's one of the most competitive guys out there. He's like the meanest, nicest guy.
Yes, that's the best way to describe Finley. Yep.
From seeing him on the forum, obviously knowing your interactions with him, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a good way to describe him. But I mean, these people are great. I mean, and I think they have a bit of an advantage. Over half the team has played these courses before, so they understand, they know the course. A lot of our guys, most of our guys, coming in not ever having seen the course, so. Again, that's an advantage for them. But handicap-wise, I mean, J-Man touched on it earlier. Like, they're battle-tested. They're playing great courses, tough tracks. They're testing themselves. They're probably, I don't know. Are they posting all their scores? Are they not? Or are they, what's going on there with their handicaps? But there's not a lot of movement, I think, from what your research from last year to this year, right, Dax?
No. I mean, nothing that is nothing statistically that stands out to you. They have 8 returning members.
Yes.
Those returning members have a combined match record of 79, 28, and 14. Like in singles, the 8 returning members are 26, 7, and 2. This is going to be a tough putt. I'll post the number at the end and we'll go through the path, but this is an impressive team that Captain Finley shows up with. But let's talk now about the spunky little underdogs. Form names only here. Team THP, when I say combined, this is the average handicap. Someone asked that. I mean, you'd be splitting hairs to figure out the combined, but it's the average, and it depends upon how we get this thing paired up. Most configurations will have us getting. Okay, like it depends on what Captain Maynard does. We're going to get pops in most configurations, and more than likely he's going to get pops, and we'll talk about maybe pairing strategy here in a second. We're led by Captain Maynard, who comes in at 11.9, effectively a 12, probably an adjusted 13. Spicoli, 3.5. K. Mitch, 3.8. Dan, one of the best golfers I've ever played with. He comes in at 3.9. Brenton G, 4.2. PP 412, 8.8. JB's 9.5, but man, I mean, he's probably like a little bit of a wild card in the middle of this because I've played plenty of golf with Josh. He can play.
That's a 9 that could go low.
Right, he's a 9 that could go low depending upon what type of putts he makes. OU Magic, we've seen him before. Very solid hand at 10.7. Big Mac, 14.5. The one international member who came across the border to play for this one, Just Brad, 15.4. I was going to try to do jazz hands if you ever watched Will and Grace. Broadham, 15.5. NTB Loco, 17.8. That's a sneaky 18, dude. He is a sneaky 18. Bronze, 18. And Pharaoh, HB, 19.1. That is your team THP. A lot of different options. A couple of notes. I'll give you this. We do have our 2 returning members of the team. And JB, he has a 2-6 career Grandaddy record, and he is 0-2 in singles play. He played 2014 and on your team, James, in 2015. We also returned the one who put the 1 in 8-1. Canadan returns. His record, 3-1 lifetime, 1-0 in singles. Okay, so we have some experienced hands, which is we don't normally see, and we have some guys that can help steady the ship. We show up with what I would refer to as 4 experienced rookies. And before the comments, I'm aware that some of these guys had played into an event, but running around Ballyhack with Josh.
This is different.
Talking to another OEM partner at Ballyhack, even though it's my favorite dormy club, is not the same as this. Okay, it's not the same as, oh, by the way, you just drew Luke and D-Neffs. Have fun and shamble. Okay, it's not the same. I counted them as rookies. The rookies here: Big Matt, Just Brad, Pharaoh, and K-Mitch. All right. We do arrive with the second most single digits we've ever arrived with. Okay,
that's interesting.
We arrived with 6 this time. The most that we ever showed up to the Grandaddy with was 7 in 2021. That was the team that we thought, oh, we've got this. We're all square at the end of day 1. This is going to be a coronation on singles day. The only coronation happened is when Dimples beat Finley 1-up in a duel. Even though this is right, this 11.2 is right in our median average. This is normally what we show up with. It is a stroke and a half lower than last year. Okay, so I'm starting to lay out some of the possibilities. The single digits are going to have to play to their number, and if we can get into day 2, Captain Maynard, who is also battle tested. Captain Maynard's been around for a long time. The last time that we saw Captain Maynard in an event, he was helping me on my team at the rivalry to an emphatic win. And he's paired with me in Shamble. You know, we were cruising. We were 3-up through 6. He looks at me. He goes, "Hey, did you bring your swim trunks? We're gonna close this out and hit the hot tub." And then all of a sudden, we needed a putt for him on 17 to win the match 2-1. He's going to have to play better because he lost that singles match, though. And he lost that singles match after being 3-up. He's going to have to play a little bit better, and that driver cannot get swipey on him because he tends to get swipey and loses it right, and we'll get to that here in a second. When you look at Team THP, James, I'll start with you. What stands out?
I think, as a whole, it may be a little bit lower than last year on as far as the team scale when we're looking at handicap. But I also think that there's more golfers here that will play to their cap. And that's not a slight on anybody else, but like you throw a Dan in there, Dan's going to play to what Dan plays to. K-Mitch is going to play pretty dang close to what K-Mitch plays to. Spicoli's going to Spicoli. Right. You've got this group of guys, this core group that I think they really will play to that. And that's the whole key, because it's like you said, we should, you're going to be getting something in every match. So take it and take advantage of it, right?
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
Key takeaways from this team as you look at the lineup. I mean, I know you did a lot of research, so the stick man's gonna give you a little bit of time here.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about each guy and kind of what I looked at. So if you look at the climb and the dive course, you're looking at probably mid to upper 130s, and then I think around 130 on the other course for slope rating, and they're going to be 71, 72ish on course rating. So course rating, for those that don't know, is generally speaking is that is what a scratch golfer should shoot when they play to their handicap. So if you get a 71.5, that scratch golfer, if they play to their handicap that day, what their potential is, they're going to shoot 71, 72 range. Slope is kind of where it adjusts for the bogey golfer per se. So slope will adjust it, and so the higher the slope that you get, the more difficulty is out there where a higher handicap can get in more trouble. So in looking at some of the handicaps, we got Maynard. Most of his courses that he's played, that he's got his scores posted, 70 to 71 on the course rating. Slopes mostly in the 120 range. 6 of the last 20 scores he had posted, only 6 were above 130 slope. So he's played some courses that have a little bit of difficulty to him, which I like. I mean, obviously we know Maynard is, he's the captain. He's played in a lot of THP experiences, events. He's battle tested there. We look at Brendan, 15.3. Again, most of his course ratings were in the 70 to 71 range. And then he played no course, that was above 128, where he shot 96 and 91 at those prospective courses. We go to Big Mac, 13.7 is what his handicap is. All this is as of Friday when I did my research on this. Plays a ton of golf, it looks like, with this guy. Most of the setups that he played was a course rating of 67.2 with a slope rating of 115. More recently, he played a couple of more difficult setups at 70.6 and a 123. Score range at those, at that course was 83 and 94. So again, a little bit of a wild card there. We come to my boy Jeff Spicoli. He's coming in. He's soft capped currently. His 12-month low was 0.0, so scratch, but he's playing at a 3.4, maybe 3.5 for the Grandaddy. I'm not sure. But I've played his home course. It's got a course rating of 72.5, which is, up there pretty good, and the slope rating 141. Definitely battle tested. He's played in some different tournaments this year. We played at a swag event together in different pairings, but he's also played in some THP events as well. I really like him at a 3.4, especially if he's hitting the driver well and getting off the tee. He's got a great putter, good short game. And I know he's been making himself putt out stuff. We talked about it a lot when we played together earlier this year. Just Brad, the guy from Canada, I couldn't find this guy with a search warrant, but I did download the Canada version of the Gen, and I found that his 12-month low was like 13.6. So don't know much about him. He's playing a little bit higher than his 12-month low at the moment. Going down the list here a little bit further, Farrow coming in at a 20. That's what his score or his handicap was. He only had 10 scores posted for 2023 that I could see. Only 2 of those were at courses that had a course rating above 70, and 4 of those did have a slope of 130. So, again, I don't know how much golf he's been playing, but we're going to find out. Brian's coming in close to an 18. The course ratings that he was playing came in between 63.5 and 67.2. So 14 of those last 20 scores that he had posted were all less than 120 slope as well. So again, I don't know what kind of tracks that he's been playing and how that might translate to some more difficult courses. Again, no slight to Brian's, just again based off what I can see from what he's playing. PP 412. He was an estimated 7 on the Grant. I had to do a little bit of research there. Mostly, he's got some pretty good scores playing on 130 plus slopes, 71, 72 course ratings. I like his handicap to probably carry pretty well, and I think he'll do pretty well at this event.
It sounds like not to cut you off. This is all great stuff. I think more importantly, I mean, not that this is not the type of stuff that our crack research team does all the time, More importantly, for some of the people that do not, this is going to play around 6,600, 65. Depends. They're going to play a mixed tee.
Yeah.
When we've seen us get into a little bit of trouble, historically speaking, it's because of the yard, not so much the maybe someone's local course is not like, I mean, of course, not many people are going to be playing at 141s, dude. Like, let's be honest. Come on. But it's because they may not have played at 6,500 yards. And all of a sudden, like maybe they have the ball in play and this is the one that we have to play and they're yanking super hybrid. Okay. And they're like, okay, let's try to hit. Now look, I love super hybrid. I played every iteration of super hybrid. It's an awesome club. However, you don't want to have the super hybrid in on your second shot a bunch. Okay. That's not a high percentage thing for us. Were you able to glean anything out of the yardages the guys were playing?
No, so we don't know. When you go into Gen, it only gives you a score, and then you can tell the score that they posted. Unless they're in your home state, under the same golf association, you can't see or I guess member of your club, you can't see what course that they played. So you could go and kind of scope out the course and then see what yardage that was. So again, the yardage, not sure about. Some of it could be, some of these guys be playing around 6,000 yards, 6,100 yards, and coming in 65, 6,600. Again, that might be a bit of a shock for some people.
We know Josh and Dan are stout. We know Maynard's stout. There's some question marks out there based on course rating. All up and all in, because I got to cut this section off because we got to get this. Yep. We got to get it in. Do you think is there anything in what you saw that made you think that we weren't going to be able to hold up here?
I mean, there's a few. Again, like I said, if I were to go through everybody here, there's a few people in here that have played some maybe easier tracks. So again, I would think like, okay, is this person's handicap gonna translate over here, especially with new equipment, the moment of the Grandaddy? And then there's a lot of guys that have played some tougher tracks and that have played in a lot of THP events. So I mean, I think we've got a really good group of guys that. Like J-Man said, I think we got some guys that handicaps are going to travel, and it happens every event. They're gonna play, and we're gonna find out. I think we have a pretty good opportunity. I think we've got some guys that their handicaps
I'm of the opinion that I think I've seen the pairings. Okay, and we're gonna get. This is a great segue. I have seen Captain Maynard's pairings. All right, I know what.
We're not going.
I can't. Well,
and you have signed an NDA.
I have signed a very similar non-disclosure agreement that they're going to sign before they get to to the headquarters. Right? Like when you walk in, you sign one electronically. They may have already signed it on paper. Let's talk. I mean, look, I know without J-Rod, I think that I always thought that Finley was going to send himself out with J-Rod. That's what he did. That's what he's done in the past when he's had J-Rod. When he didn't have J-Rod, he's sent himself out potentially with Nick. But he's got 5 rookies here. I think that he sprinkles it around. I will say a couple things. The last time that we saw Lex, she went out with Luke. Okay, so I think that may be something that he does again. But let's be honest. Like if I was the captain, you could just start pulling. Like you could put everybody like on a little piece of paper and put them in my hat and just start pulling them out, like, and probably have pretty solid pairing. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing his pairing options because he's got a combined cap of 7. He's got people that he could sprinkle with some of the rookies. He may send like Austin and Zach out there as a very formidable pairing, which I think he's done in the past. Let's talk about Captain Maynard's options. Okay, when you look at if and I'll pull us back up just to show you. What are you looking for here, James? You've captained this thing before. I mean, what type of options? And you two, I'm the only one on this live stream that knows what the pairings are. So I'm not going to say a whole lot because I don't want to tip the hand. What would you do? What would you do, James? You're the captain.
Oh, I mean, I think it's like I come back to though. I really do think this is one of the more balanced teams we've had in a while. So I think it kind of affords you a few more options. So is your mentality to put big caps with big caps and let them try to go pop somebody to death and let your consistent guys go be consistent, or do you play strengths and weaknesses? I was always more of a strength and weakness guy, especially with the shamble format be the one to kick off. Like I always wanted somebody that I know is going to get in the fairway, that's going to give the other guy a shot, right? Because you want the shot. So I kind of lean that way, and I think there's some pretty interesting versatility there, because there's some of these, I would say, upper cappers that from what my experiences are, they can actually move the ball a little bit. So that's kind of the way I would lean. I would lean strengths and weaknesses. I have a couple pairings I would probably put together, but beyond that, I think that gives you the best chance for the balance you're going to see from Callaway.
Illiterate, do you have any thoughts about what you would do?
Yeah, I mean, I think
an event before.
With again, kind of like what J-Man said here, you don't have alt shot where I think a lot of times people try to
everything
up there. Yeah. It changes everything. So you can kind of go strengths and weaknesses here. You might try to go, for the shamble, you might start there and kind of think like, okay, who can I throw out that's really strong with the driver, and maybe somebody that's losing some strokes off the tee, and, according to how they're playing, and hey, they've got a really good iron and short game, and suddenly that 8 handicap or 10 handicap or whatever is playing like a 2, once you get them in the fairway. So there's a lot of different options there you can kind of think about. I think you play strengths and weaknesses there, and then you could have potentially have throwaway pairings. You could have like, hey, I'm going to put me and J-Man out there. I expect those two guys to go get a point, like that type of thing. You could have really, really strong pairings where you can put two juggernauts together and say, hey, I know I'm getting a point out of this, or at least I expect it. So there's a lot of options. I think freeing everybody up from alt shot, it really helps Team THP here.
Yeah, I think this is legitimately one of the first opportunities in a bit where Maynard as a captain has got every option at his disposal. Like he can play this any way. And I think there's a path. Yeah,
there's definitely we're going to get to the path. Great segue. Here's what I will say about this, and we'll move on. He's got options, no doubt. We've already discussed that. He has an option to throw a Papapalooza out there. I've done it before with mixed result.
Hit or miss, baby.
It's sort of a hit or miss situation. He could very well do that. There's a variety of different things he can do, and I know because in conversations with him that he has extensively planned what to try to navigate himself through these singles pairings. Here's what I will say though: he needs about 6.5 points. We'll get to the path, or all of this prep work that he's done for singles pairings gets thrown out the window. Okay, if you're down like 8-4, if you're down 8.5 to 3.5, all of this like just evaporates because here they come. Like you have no other choice. You have to get points on the board. You're going out against a very dangerous man in match 1 against Finley. You're not going to pull a data dude in this situation. You're going to go out and play him because this is what we've asked for this entire time. You're not going to pull that type of gambit. So if you are down, here comes K Mitch, here comes Spicoli, here comes all of the lows have to go out because you're going to need points on the board. Going to be very interesting to see if we can get out of day 1 with a chance to give him a little bit more flexibility as he sort of snakes his way around how to get those singles matches out there. The one singles match that we do know about is this one. Okay. Captain Finley at 6.4 against Captain Maynard at probably what, 11.9, call it 12. Finley lay 6 here in this spot. James, I'll start with you. Thoughts on the captain's match, because it's the only one that we know about so far.
That's the only one we can speak on. I think Maynard's experience in being in other events and other THP experiences is kind of a good thing here, because the aura of Finley is a real thing, but he's also he'll get mad at me for saying this. He's also one of the coolest people on the planet.
He is.
So I think Maynard's going to be really comfortable there. So play your game and don't let what Finley does bother you, because he's going to hit amazing shots and he's going to hit average shots just like you're going to. And I think five shots for as much golf as Maynard plays, I like it.
Let's get 5, maybe 6.
It should be a fight. It should be a fight.
Look, I mean, he laid he laid almost the same. He laid 6 to me, and it didn't matter. Um, I mean, in his career, like if you look at it, here I've got all of
Let me go to
Finley's.
my notes here.
Yeah, so he beats T-Ron twice. Okay, both of those matches are 6-5. He beats Drew Z on Dan's team 6-4. He beat me. I'm not gonna. No need to. Everyone knows what the number was there. He beat McLovin, Captain McLovin. He beat him 7-6. He didn't play in 2018. Got the flu. He loses to Matty D 1-up. He lost to JDax before it was a thing. And Jeremy just like woodshedded him 5-4.
North Jeremy.
I mean, I know how that feels. Brutal. He had a hard time last year against Captain Hibbs, fading a bunch of pops. Captain Hibbs made those pops pay off for him. Captain Hibbs got that match deep. Like I said before, Hibbs stood on 13 tee box with a 2-up lead. Couldn't close the door because here came this is Finley, sort of what Finley does. He sort of lulls you into thinking that something's about to happen, and then he starts slamming the door shut on you. He won 4 of the last 5 holes and won that match 2-1. Maynard has to get off the tee a little bit better than he did the last time we saw him in singles at the rivalry, and if he does, he is a live dog here. He could absolutely pull this upset. He absolutely could do this. But his point's very important because we're going to get to the path. What is the path for the upset? Like, I haven't posted my number. Everyone knows that Team Callaway, if they've been listening long enough or read they know that they're going to go off as a favorite. It's just by how much at this point. What do we need to do in order to pull off the unimaginable and we pull off the upset here? James, I'll go to you first. What has to happen to give us the path to the upset?
You got to play to your cap.
Okay.
I mean, I can't. I've racked my brain on 50 different eloquent ways to say it, but you got to be you and play to your cap. And the hardest thing out there, and it's kind of like you said when you brought up the distance point of it all, is you can't press. There's no reason to start overswinging and pressing. The slope of these courses is gnarly, right? We know that. But off the tee, even at those distances, it's not the scariest thing. It's just the visuals it gives you. So just put the sucker in play and go, because that's what all these Callaway guys are going to do, and gals. They're going to put it in play and they're going to go. That's it. You put it in play, you got a shot.
They really keep the ball in front of them.
And that's everything on these courses.
They're not in the water. They're not asking where it went into the hazard. There's no ball hunting for Easter eggs. None of this happens to them. Illiterate thoughts on the path.
I mean, I think you got to keep it close after day one.
Yeah.
If you can get 6.5 points, something like that, I mean, I think you go into that next day thinking, all right, we've really got a chance. I mean, even if you got 5, like, it's still not unfathomable, but it's a little bit more tough there on day 2. But I think you just got to keep it close that first day, and play loose. Like you literally, you're on cloud 9 for golf trips, golf experiences. Just enjoy it, take it in, play, swing your swing. You have nothing to don't tighten up because it's just the Grandaddy. Just go out there and swing loose, have fun, and just take it in. Let whatever's going to happen. So
I think I agree with both of you, but I think here's one point that I'll bring up. Do not get baited into certain matches that do not favor us. If you into singles, do not let Austin bait you into throwing out Dan against him. You need a point from Dan. No. I'm being honest. You need a point from Dan. Like, Dan is a favorite against most of these people, and you absolutely are going to need a point from him. Do not get baited into, hey, wouldn't this be a great war? No, we don't want Dan in a war. We need the point. It's the same thing for Spicoli. It's the same thing for K-Mitch. You try to get these guys out there in matches where they're not laying a whole bunch, but you like them an awful lot. But, like, let's avoid Spicoli versus Luke if you can. You may not be able to. You're only going to be able to get half of the matches that you kind of want out there if it kind of goes that way. But if you get baited into throwing one of these guys that you absolutely expect a point for in a war where it could go down to the end and it's a coin flip on whether or not you get this point, we're going to lose. Like, you have to be smart if you're the captain. This is the path. Get out of day one. Get 6.5. There's some pairings here. I didn't give them away. I like our chances to get 6.5 points. I do. I like what he's done here based on everything, all of the research that we've done. And when you get to that singles day, do not let Finley bait you.
I mean,
that is our path.
But at the same time, I could see it go either way. Like, if we get 5, right? This is the kind of team where you can throw some of those guys out against some big ones and let's go swing for the fence.
Yep.
I mean, you have that option. Like, for me, like, some of our lows, haven't seen so many of them play before. Like, I feel more confident in them against some of those guys than others. But you are correct, because there's a lot of those guys on that Callaway team that want Dan because of the past. They want to be the one to put an L on that record. So do you roll with it? Do you let them suck you into it? I mean, even I've got a match where I'd like to see some of these guys in. I've got people I'd like to see play with everything. But you're right. If you have a plan and you've done your research, then stick to it.
Right, but, and I think that he has. I just don't want it to get all thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Like,
Finley's great at baiting you.
In the emotion, and all of a sudden, if Dan should not come out of Captain Maynard's mouth first, he has to place Dan in a match, right? He has to hold him back.
Well, and I think the same is true with 3 or 4 of the guys.
Right. My dream match for Dan is that I want him to go out against one of the Zacks, but that's just me. I'm not the captain. There is a path here, but it's very narrow. Our margin for error is so narrow that everything has to break our way, including how you get those matches out there in singles, especially if you're sitting there at 6.5, 7 point. Like, if it's all square, or you're just down a half, or maybe even just down a full point like we were in 2016, you have to be very methodical with what we do in that next day.
You know what though? It's time.
Yeah, it is our time. We're gonna get to pits. Is there any? We're a little over. Probably gonna run about 15 minutes over. That's okay. This is the Grandaddy.
Any live questions that we can answer?
Any questions? Any questions out there?
I saw one from Billy B a while back when we were talking about the equipment, and he asked, how much does the new equipment give the Callaway guys an advantage? To be honest, most of them don't play the newest stuff. Like, our THP guys are getting the redacted stuff before a lot of the Callaway guys are. Like, that's just the reality of it all. You get to play with them, and a lot of them will be peeking in the THPers bags to see some of it. So that's always a really cool aspect, but that doesn't play into it as much as you might think it would. It's not like they've been playing these drivers for a year or anything like that.
We did have a question for J-Man that said, what was harder, the die course or Karsten?
What was it?
What was harder, the die course or Karsten?
I think Karsten's the hardest course I've ever played in my life. But I also had to play it from 7,500 yards. So that's a different beast than the die from, 66, somewhere in there. I think in an event like this, the die has the potential to chew you up and spit you out. But I'm the psycho who likes the hard golf course. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's just, it's two different things,
Absolutely.
Anything else from the
nothing,
the THP
nothing
universe?
We answered a few that were kind of as we went along there.
So I'm going to give you the number. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Team Callaway is the favorite. I made them to win the Grandaddy. This is to win. Minus 345. The comeback on Team THP is plus 275. Illiterate, I will start with you. Final thoughts, and give me your pick.
Final thoughts. I think it's going to be a close Grandaddy. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the bad guy here. I'm going to pick Team Callaway not because it's like the easy pick, but I think it's, again, the odds are stacked against us here. It's not that I'll be pulling, my heart is pulling for Team THP. My head says Team Callaway. That's where I'm going.
The dreaded qualifier. Before the pick. I will say that the THP universe has still favored Team THP 55% to 45%. James, J-Man, final thoughts and pick. What is your pick?
Team THP. I don't even have to hesitate. It's Team
I thought
THP.
for sure you were going to go top.
And I think honestly though, the biggest part of it is I really like the setup of the team. It's not just, I know everybody's hung up on Dan coming back, and Dan's my boy, but it goes beyond that. Before Dan and Josh were coming into it, I like the team. So I think it's the potential setup. I think they're going to get their 6.5 right around there. I think things are going to be set up well. I think you go into singles, and it's the first time in a while, well, in a couple years, you make Callaway think when you go into singles. And I think Maynard is patient enough to get the picks that he wants to get, where he wants to get them, because him and much more have been doing work.
Yes.
And call it a homer pick, call it whatever you want. I'm THP.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean,
I know what the odds are, Dax.
Right. I know what the odds are. Look, it's going to be a very difficult haul. Okay.
Always.
But I do think in this particular case, with this particular team, I think that we can get out of day one with 6.5. And I do think that Maynard has a plan, if he's willing to stick with the plan, to get us in the position to win on singles day. It's going to be super, super close, dude. It just is. Give me us. Look, if not now, win. If not now, win. Give me Team THP to win 14.5 to 13.5. They find a way to grind this out. This could be the last one. This could be it. We don't know if it's coming back. We have no idea. You never know. This may be our last moment in the sun. I think that we have the right captain. I think that we have the right team, and they pull off the shocker.
Now, I'm here for it, man.
If he wins, it's probably coming back.
That's a safe bet right there.
It's a safe bet. It's a safe
one
bet.
thing's for sure, it's going to be edge of your seat. And I mean, y'all be on the forum, because that thread is going to be hopping.
Let's pop that live thread. Let's show this team support. Look, in the Grandaddy, everyone's on Team THP. There just happens to be an away team and the home team. Okay,
That's
the
right.
away team happens to be playing. The rest of us at the home team are rooting them on like the Dickens. They find a way to pull this off. For J-Man, for Illiterate, this is JDax, and we are out. Thanks for joining us.